Speaking K12, I have to share a YouTube video with you. The guy on video is Lamar Wilson. He's a hilarious former EdTech guy, writing about, talking really about an article in The Week, the 7 dumbest reasons school kids get suspended, and not a 100% tech story, but Lamar Wilson is a guy whose YouTube channel is worth subscribing to no matter what. We'll share the link with you in the show.
Hey, do these stripes make me look fat? No, the stripes are fine. It's the fat that makes you look fat. So today is Reaction Thursday, and I want to talk about the 7 dumbest reasons why kids get suspended. At least according to this article I read, which I'm reacting to. Hence the name Reaction Thursday. Now, as a former in-school suspension director, classroom teacher, and former member of the administration team, I gotta say, schools be stupid nowadays. Schools be stupid. I went to a Chicago public school. So let's take a look at a few of my favorite.
And really just have to go over a couple of these reasons that he highlights. Really, you do have to wonder what some of these folks are thinking. We have suspensions for a middle school student carving or cutting a picture of Matt Bonner in his hair, hugging a friend. Of course, guy and a girl giving each other a hug between classes. Suspended for the hug, Tebowing, growing hair up for charity, singing a hit song, calling a teacher cute. This is for a 9-year-old, by the way, so he was charged with sexual harassment, and even chivalry. Really, I guess we gotta think about why we're suspending our students. But more importantly, check out Lamar Wilson and keep his channel in your RSS feed. Really funny stuff, and always good to lighten the week as we near the end of the school year. Next story is from Education Week. K12 scorecard mixed as state lawmakers finish. So looking across the states, we're seeing over and over really states struggling with this issue of needing to stimulate the economy, wanting to reduce taxes, and yet not having nearly enough income or revenue to fund education appropriately. So, when as property taxes drop because of dropping property values, and as employment drops and therefore tax revenue drops, lawmakers are left with not too many options. So, looking at the states, though, in this article, a number of them are actually choosing to increase aid to schools regardless. Others absolutely, cutting on the bottom line. Kansas and Maryland being a couple examples of states looking to actually increase student aid and per pupil spending, at least to stem the flow of money away from education. California, well, they've got a $16 billion budget shortfall to deal with, so you can imagine where some cuts will be happening there. Really, is now the time to cut taxes? Is now the time to pay for education? Where else can we cut? These are all questions that the lawmakers wrestled with as they ended their session. Next article takes me back a little ways, back to my own high school prom. Well, let's just say that my high school was not one of the ones in the greater Seattle area that was choosing to distribute condoms to students and really looking to stem the rising rates of STDs. And I didn't agree with that. So on my senior prom, I worked with Planned Parenthood, and I got myself in a little trouble for distributing a whole lot of condoms. I think I would have been okay had I not filled my principal's minivan with condoms as well. That being said, Bedford Stuyvesant's Prep in Brooklyn is actually looking to distribute condoms at their prom this year. This is going to be on June 7th. This is the first time, though, that the area schools, despite 680,000 condoms being distributed to students in New York City last year, this is one of the first to do it at the prom. Obviously, we've got parents and conservative activist groups saying, "Hey, you're really promoting behavior that perhaps we'd rather not have happen on prom night." But the school, of course, is hoping just to be realistic and prevent all the problems of teen pregnancy and obviously everything else that goes with those prom night flings. So the principal there is possibly thinking about reversing his stand, but we will see how this actually all plays out. Again, not a total text story, but more sharing and personal resonance there. Next story, school groups craft a 7-part plan for improving teaching. So 7-part plans and lots of ideas are all well and good. This story is interesting though because we have major teachers union and labor groups coming together with administrators and policymakers. And this is not the usual pairing that we're used to seeing. Usually it unfortunately has been an us against them mentality, and they're seeking to eliminate that. And so I'll just share the plan they came up with, those 7 points. 1, we have a culture of shared responsibility and leadership. 2, top talent and talent that is prepared for success. And again, none of these things are revolutionary or groundbreaking, but it's good news that the two sides, if you want to call it that, are talking and are looking to advance this agenda. And obviously, it's all too easy for students who may not otherwise be able to jump into the private sector to just say, hey, I'll just go teach. Instead, we need to have the top flight students graduating and choosing to teach. And that is a very difficult thing to recruit. Number 3, promoting continuous growth and professional development. Of course, we have a lot of teachers who are in the system, who have been in the system, and were not sort of steeped in this new attitude towards education and some of the new best practices around teaching, around the technology involved, or potentially involved in teaching now. We need to provide them the training they need to do this well. Effective teachers and principals, again, ending the us against them mentality and ensuring that the right people are talking to each other and making sure that they are the best of the best, making sure that the principals can do their jobs and are doing them effectively and at their top level, and making sure that the teachers are there and feel supported and empowered and are able to do what they need to do as well as they can. Professional career continuum with competitive compensation. Well, no kidding, right? So knowing that you can go somewhere that you can actually improve your lot in life by working harder as opposed to simply advancing in the seniority standings, that's a pretty critical piece of making this all work. Conditions for successful teaching and learning is number 6. And, we've had a number of stories both on C12 and Review Ed, ENT, talking about the lack of safety in many schools, or the lack of resources, or both. And to eliminate that gap really makes it a much more pleasant and effective place for teachers to be. You take your life in your hands every day, then the private sector is a lot safer. They have security guards. Engaged communities is the final piece. I think this goes without saying, but there's lots of ways to engage our communities, and this perhaps is where technology comes in more than anywhere else. Being able to explore social media, being able to explore virtual ways of meeting with parents, of getting community leaders and stakeholders involved. All these are pretty critical. So we've been talking about them for a long time, but teachers' unions have not been talking with administrators and policymakers about these things for as long. So next story is from Yahoo News, asking if college is still worth it. I wrote an article over on the WizIQ blog just recently, asking, well, does every student need to go to college anymore? And really, is it worth the mountains of debt when you walk into a job situation that is perhaps even non-existent? And this is what teachers are wrestling with themselves as they are mentoring students and preparing them for the world. Should they be worrying about college prep, or should they be worrying about life preparedness or learning via other resources? I think we're reaching an inflection point where although college is critical for many employers and for many jobs, there's lots of ways to gain skills and be able to go and be successful and innovative and advance your standing in the world. So, and advance the world itself. So this is the question that teachers are struggling with, and so are students for that matter. Interesting story over on Yahoo News. Next story, actually a blog, but I think we'll share it on the news section. This is by Valerie Strauss, a favorite author of mine over on the Washington Post. she asks, or she tells us how ed policy is hurting early childhood education. And I think this is, we've had lots of conversations about this focus on high stakes testing and these sort of summative assessments that don't really make much difference in the way that we teach our students, except for the fact that we teach to the test instead of teaching broad and deep important ideas and letting the learning come from that. But this is particularly important at a young age. When we're talking preschool, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, to start preparing a first grader for a high-stakes test and teaching to the test, as she points out, really diminishes the ability of early childhood educators to leverage their expertise in early childhood education and in the way that students learn at that age, the way that they learn literacy, the way that they're building these really important concepts that they will carry with them for the next, well, all of their lives, particularly the next several years when these high-stakes tests could become arguably a bit more relevant. So she really just is advocating for allowing teachers in early childhood education to do their jobs and worry about the testing later. We obviously need to have some objective measures of how well they're doing, but it needs to not be pushing these early elementary teachers to be teaching to the test just like all of their peers at the upper levels. So great article to read there. Final thing I want to share, Angela Myers and I had a really great webcast. It's only half an hour. We could barely just scratch the surface of our topic. I hope we'll be having some follow-ups. But there's a download now available of the webcast. It's How Do We Prepare Students for a Global Knowledge Economy? And it's a tough question, a big question, and not a question that can be answered in 30 minutes by any means. But I think we began a great conversation, and just encourage you to check it out and be thinking about this idea of a global knowledge economy. Where do we want our students to fall, whether they attend college or not, whether they pursue higher education or they're learning advanced skills? How do we get them back to this idea that the United States needs to be a leader in this knowledge economy? Much of our manufacturing has gone elsewhere, and for good reason. We can leverage economies of scale and lower labor costs elsewhere quite nicely. But we can and should remain leaders in the global economy and in the development of knowledge and intellectual property and in innovation and creativity. How do we do that? Like I said, tough question. Check out the download though. Give me your thoughts and feedback. Very interested to hear it.